Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to Radio Apnea Waz. This is your show, this is your Sunday show with Abu Musa. And let's get right into the show. And for those of you that know, and those of you that listen to my show, know that I normally start off with things, just a bit of a quick reflection of the week, followed by a little bit of a review of some of the news articles, and some maybe sort of like personal lessons that I may have acquired through the week that has passed by. And then obviously I'll get into more of a talking point, which will be further on later into my show. So yeah, where are we now? We're beginning of November. Yeah, November the 2nd now. Things have kind of moved on. So we're into the final couple of months of the year. And November, obviously, as we know, the end of October, the clocks go back. And winter, the days get darker and the mornings are dark also. And sometimes, you know what, I've been thinking, why do the clocks go back? And I just thought, I'd just share that quick, for those of you that know, my apologies. For those of you that don't know why the clocks go back, I've got a quick little historical context for you into why living here in the UK, because other parts of the world, they may not have this policy where the clocks go back in the winters and go forward in the summers. So a quick little bit of origin story of why the clocks go back. So purpose of DST, they call it, which is daylight saving time. According to this goes, in spring clocks go forward 1 hour, often called spring forward, to give people more daylight in the evening, and in autumn clocks go back 1 hour, fall back to return to standard time, giving more daylight in the morning. So why in winter do we get the clocks going back? In winter, days are shorter and it gets lighter in the morning. By turning the clocks back, people get more daylight during the early part of the day, which is especially helpful for things like commuting or work. And historically, the DST was first widely adopted during World War I to save energy, less need for artificial lighting in the evenings. Today it's still used in many places, although there's ongoing debate about whether it's still necessary. I mean, I don't know how you feel about this. I mean, personally, I'd prefer if the days were lighter and we didn't have the clocks going back. And because what you find is a big contrast is when you go into some of the other parts of the world where their timings are more consistent. They don't have a drastic change in times of Salah throughout the year. I mean, we have a massive change. I mean, in the summer times, you're praying your Salah in the early hours of the morning. And in the winters, you can get up now around 7 o'clock and it's still dark. And obviously, as the winter progresses, it'll be dark up to 8 o'clock, so you'll be able to pray your Fajr a lot later, which makes it a lot easier for those that like to have a lie-in. But obviously, in certain parts of the Muslim world, you find there's a consistency of times for praying, and there's not this massive contrast between the summers and the winters. But that is the reality of the situation that we live in. Just some more information that I collated around that. The origins in England. So back in 1907, a chap called William Willett, and this is just historical context, and you might find it completely nonsensical kind of information. A builder from Kent was the key figure behind the idea in 1907. He published a pamphlet titled The Waste of Daylight, arguing that people were wasting valuable daylight hours by sleeping through them in summer mornings. Willett proposed advancing the clocks by 80 minutes in 4 20-minute steps during April and reversing the process in September. His goal was to improve health, increase leisure time, and reduce lighting costs. So official adoption, although Willett campaigned vigorously, the idea wasn't adopted until World War I, when Germany introduced DST to conserve coal. The UK followed suit with the Summertime Act of 1916, moving clocks forward by 1 hour on 21st of May 1916 and back again on the 1st of October 1916. So if you didn't know, now you know. Why clocks go back in autumn, of course, we've discussed that. Some of the earlier influences here, just to go back in history, Benjamin Franklin, for those of you that know, Benjamin Franklin is obviously on the dollar note, jokingly suggested waking earlier to save candle usage in 1784, but didn't propose changing clocks. George Vernon Hudson, a New Zealand entomologist, proposed a 2-hour clock shift in 1895 to allow more daylight for insect collecting. So it's interesting to see some of the rationale and logic behind the changing of time and why they're trying to preserve certain things to do with nature and to do with your health. Because when you think about it, I mean, I don't know how you feel about it, but winter times can be a very depressing time of the year. Not only one is it freezing cold in the UK, but it's also dark. So most of the day you don't get much sunlight, and hence you have a very short day. It's already dull enough with the cold weather, and when you've got a brief kind of window of light, I think by 4 o'clock it gets dark. I mean, on the plus side, for those of you who fast in winter, it can make you naturally the fasts are very short, but the cold weather does have an impact on your fasting. But I know the shorter days, of course, the later starting of the fast and the early opening of the fast does make your fasting a lot easier. And I do know I've got some fasts to make up, so I'm going to try to knock some fasts in this cold winter period, just to make things a bit more easier for me. So that was just some brief information to you about the context or the origins of the clocks going back. So if you didn't know, alhamdulillah, I hope that you've been informed there. And if you did, my apologies. I'm just reiterating information that you are already aware of. Okay. So again, I just want to talk about some things that I've witnessed and experienced this week. It was interesting this week for me. I managed to have a couple of occasions where I was fortunate enough to drive my parents for a couple of hours in the car to Birmingham. And my son laughs in the background thinking, why is he talking about this for? And there is a moral to the story that I'm going to get to. I think first and foremost, just to have the opportunity to sit with your parents for a couple of hours is quite an important kind of process in itself. You get that time, one-to-one time with your parents, which you often don't. And for me, the reality is, when you have children, you have, commitments and responsibilities throughout the week, school, mosque, work, etc., you don't really find the time to, get some concentrated time with your parents. And as they get older, and our relationships kind of change over time, because now you're a father, now you're managing your own household, you have your own responsibilities, and your parents are kind of like, they're left to their own devices. So I had the opportunity to sit, again, like I said, with my parents for a couple of hours, driving them from one city to another. And yeah, I'm going to specifically talk about me and my father's relationship here without going into too much detail. But yeah, me and my father, we are very similar characters in many ways, both very opinionated people. And sometimes you find, and I know that I'll get a lot of stick for this, because I know Islamically, the son is supposed to be obedient, and I am, and I do try my best to be obedient to my father and listen to my father and do as my father asks of me. But over the years, obviously, every relationship has its ups and downs, and I think, it was interesting that during my drive to Birmingham, my father has a tendency always to comment on my driving, which rightly so he can do, and as an obedient son, I should sit and I should observe and take note of what my father is saying. But along the way, you start to lose your patience, and you have a little back and forth with your father. It's one of those situations where you have a relationship, and every relationship has its pros and cons, and I think for me it was a good lesson learned that I took away from there. And I said to myself, you know what, you're gonna have to really think about the way you manage your emotions and manage the relationship with your father. I think in reflection, I have to become a lot more patient. I can't expect my dad now, who's mid 70s going towards his 80s, to really change his habits and his behavior. I think for me the lesson was that I have to maybe zip the mouth, and kind of, my mum kept saying to me in the back, Asif, just be patient with your dad. And Asif being Asif decides to sort of like express his opinion and put his own argument forward. And I think going forward and taking some valuable lessons is that sometimes it's not about being right. Sometimes it's about just letting your parents, and my son's obviously sat opposite me watching me, probably thinking, having witnessed what he witnessed in the car, so he's probably thinking, Dad's got a lot of rectifying to do in his personality, and rightly so. I think we all come with our flaws. Nobody, as I talk to you on the radio here, I am probably as sinful as anybody else listening to this radio, and we all have our flaws, we all have our shortcomings, and it's something that is important that we identify within ourselves and we are able to rectify. And I think after that journey, I did have a lot of self-reflection. I did think about my whole conduct and my behavior, and I could have done things a lot more differently. And one of my thoughts was that maybe I shouldn't go on a long journey with my father, because maybe that is just going into hostile territory. But that would be the ultimate test for me, whether I have gained any valuable lessons from that experience. And publicly here, I do apologize if I said anything to my father to offend him, as that was never my intention. My intention was to just get them from A to B in the most efficient way possible, which is what I tried to do. So, I guess we all have certain types of relationships with our parents. You might have an excellent relationship with your father and your mother, or you may have not the best relationship with your mother, or you may have a very good relationship with your mother. I think it's only natural that we have some shortcomings in our relationships, and we can always work on those shortcomings. I think it's recognizing those shortcomings, and maybe for us to reflect on our conduct, because it's difficult, and I can't turn around and point the finger at my father and say, well, Dad, you need to change your habits, you need to change the way you speak to me. That would be a bit harsh. That would be probably inappropriate for me to do that, given the fact that I am the son, and I shouldn't say uff to my parents according to the Quran. And that's the note that I took from there, because I think it's quite easy in conversation that you lose yourself in conversation, and in arguments sometimes your ego can sort of like get the better of you, and I'm kind of exposing myself here on many accounts, I think, and this no doubt will go public as well, this video, and it'll be shared on my social media. So I'm here to put my hands up and say, look, I am guilty of being, I could have conducted myself in a better manner, and I think going forward I need to rectify certain habits in my character, and that's for me, between me and Allah, and between my father, that I can sit with him and have a civil conversation without us maybe kind of being confrontational. I think our relationship has improved in many ways. I am recognizing, I think the interesting thing is the father and son relationship here more than anything, because the son is always looking for acknowledgement, gratification from his father. He's always wanting that approval, that, you know what, Dad, you've raised the son here, and I hope that, as a son, that I am pleasing to you, that I have done right by you, and I'm doing right by my family. And I think